Welcome to the Creative Content Club podcast with me, Naomi Rose. If you are a business owner who wants to consistently create content that connects and converts into clients, this is the podcast for you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's get right into it. Hello, amazing people. I hope you are all good and welcome to episode number 13 of the Creative Content Club. It is me, Naomi Rose. If anyone remembers, what was it? I've forgotten what it was called now. Hello. You'll get the reference there. It's a really old school program I used to watch as a kid. Anyway, I'm not here to talk to you about my love of old school comedy. I am here to talk to you today about simple, smart content planning to stay creative without the chaos. It feels like a bit of a dichotomy of terms. Oh, that's a bit of a long word. Planning and creativity doesn't seem to ever want to fit together, right? It seems like the two different things. And actually it can. But I get it because I am an ideas person, right? I'll come up with 101 ideas for content. I mostly think about content a lot of the times during the day, but I'll come up with ideas for content usually when I'm walking the dog. Tomorrow I'm off to London to do a video interview in the actual BT Tower, which I'm more excited about going in the BT Tower. I'm sure it will just be an office inside. I'm sure it won't be that exciting, but still, I've never been in there, so I'm very excited about it. But when I'm on the train, I've said this before, it's that forward motion where I get lots of work done. I book a first class ticket because I want to do work in there. It's a real good investment for my business doing that. And I do it through SeatFrog, so I get a bargain, and I know I love a bargain. I get loads of work done when I'm on train. So 2.5 hours into London on the train, or is it a 3 hour? I can't remember which journey it is. Anyway, a good chunk of time. So on those journeys, I come up with so many ideas. If I tried to put them all out there at once, it would just be complete carnage. No one would understand what the hell I'm going on about. It would just be taking people from one story to another, then bouncing them round. And I'll just be like in some complete shambolic. That's a great word. I had that word. I heard that word earlier this week. I thought I've got to use that. A complete chaos, cacophony. Oh, I'm full of the long words today. I have been in launch mode for about 6 weeks, and I'm just about coming to the end of the launch period. So I am a little bit tired, to say the least, a little bit exhausted, also a bit giddy about starting the course. So whole host of emotions and feelings going on right now. But I totally understand what it's like when you have ideas for content and then you actually don't know what to do with them. How do you kind of keep that creativity, those ideas where you think, actually, that's really going to work without losing that creativity and putting it into a plan? So that's exactly what this episode is about today, is when you get those moments of, that's going to make a great bit of content. How do we actually take that and lock it? Like if you've ever watched Harry Potter, what I call take the thoughts from your mind in the style of Dumbledore, putting stuff in the pensieve. That's what we want to do with it. So here are my 5 suggestions for you of how to use planning and creativity harmoniously, as one would say. So the first is what we've just a little bit been talking about, too many ideas and just flinging them out there. So if you come across that moment of inspiration, think, great, I haven't posted today. I'll just get it out there. It's a great idea. I've got an idea for a new offer. I'm going to sling it out there. I, hands up, done that several times and then realise I've overcommitted myself and cannot deliver. But what you don't want to do is just go and throw it out there, because actually what happens is you have a great idea, you've put it out there, and then the likelihood is no one will engage, no one will view, no one will comment, and you'll get no sales from it. And you think that great idea wasn't that great, and then it questions exactly which content works. It's not usually that reason. If you think it's a great idea, it probably is. It's probably just the timing. It's probably just it's gone out at a random point and it's confused your ideal clients. And if it does get traction, what's even more frustrating, when I say traction, I mean it gets views, comments, likes, might make some sales, because it was so random and not planned. It's hard to track the success of that, because when you try and replicate it, it probably won't work. And that is even more frustrating, because how could it have worked that time when it's so random? And then when you plan it, it doesn't. It doesn't help. So what we have to do is, rather than take those ideas and put them straight out into ether because we need to tell everybody what we thought of immediately, we need to put them in some place that will absolutely not create that scattergun effect for your audience, because we have to think of them. I'm not saying messy action is not good. We do have to take action sometimes. Sometimes if we've got an idea, we need to run with it. It's not what I'm saying here. But what I want you to do before you just put something out there, because I put posts out there randomly. I don't always plan everything. I plan most of my stuff, but sometimes there are opportunities that I want to take. But what I do is I stress test it first. So I think, does this fit my brand right now? Is this what I'm talking about right now? Is it going to relate to my audience right now compared to what else I've been talking about? And what exactly am I wanting people to do with that content? Is it relevant to a current call to action that I'm working on right now? And they are the things that I will ask. If not, I will put it somewhere else. I will park it. I won't lose it. I will park it. Just to add, sometimes our most brilliant ideas aren't always the best ones. I remember back in when I was doing my master's, I was doing a master's in arts management. Where I used to work and where the other people used to work are theatres, because we worked in theatres, as in not operating theatres, as in musical theatres, as in stage theatres. We used to meet in the pub to do our work and plan out what we were going to do for our seminars the next day, which was great. And then we'd get involved in the pub quiz, which was even greater. And then we'd come up with all these amazing ideas and then get to the lecture the next day and realise we should never have planned things out that way. Because what seemed like a good idea with a couple of beverages under our belts was definitely not when you're in a very cold, stone sober room and having to then deliver a project which you realise it was not your best idea. So sometimes we do have to have that kind of container where we can put stuff. So this leads quite nicely on to number 2, which is feeling like your content going out there is a bit of a shambles, as in it feels really disorganised, disconnected, doesn't really make sense, not just to your audience, but to you. It feels like there is no structure, there's no consistency, because it's a messy jumble of your ideas that's currently going out there. And it's really hard to know how that's working for you. And you also feel very disorganized. I know a lot of creative people like that freedom. I'm one of those people, but actually what we want to do is take our audience on a really clear journey, as well as yourself. Really feel that every bit of content is connected in some way for the right things. The inconsistency of just posting those random thoughts does actually not help you at all. That's why we need to be really consistent with what we do, even if it's putting 3 things out a week and popping ideas down to come back to later. But what I normally do, if your content is feeling like a shambles and you've got ideas for stuff, I would just categorise what you've got. So think of the ideas that you've got and whether it can be turned into an inspirational piece, a storytelling piece, something that can relate to an offer, a personal story. How does it fit into your main content themes? And just put those ideas into those categories and then pick one of those each week to put out that's relevant. And that will really help you stay consistent without killing all of that creativity that you've got and not taking your audience in a completely random direction. It will keep that messaging really consistent with your audience, as well as help you get more clarity on exactly what you need to share, what content you need to put out there in the right places. My third point today actually leads very nicely on from there. It's about how do you create that consistent content plan that works for you on repeat? And actually we want to overcomplicate it, right? I don't have hours and hours of time to create content. It takes up a good part of my day, but not on my own content. That's the thing, because I've got, I'm a content strategist. I help other people do content. I do not have hours to spend on my own content and getting stuff out there. What I do know I need to do is get consistency, get visibility, and get a plan that works on repeat, because it means it becomes muscle memory. I don't have to necessarily think about what I need to do because I have a simple weekly structure I can stick to very consistently. This podcast goes out on the same time each week. My blog goes out at the same time each week. I share a quote every single Saturday. I do things on repeat because people remember stuff that is on repeat. It's that brand repetition because brand recognition is built with repetition. That is so key. So actually, if you create a consistent plan that has all of those elements so that you can make sure that you use your ideas in the right way, then that will really help. And actually, each post that goes out has a purpose. You might think, well, you put a poll out about your husband's, I'm still talking about this chicken dish that my husband had. He had kung po chicken with green olives in. I think I talked about it on last week's podcast as well. But either way, he had it was a weird fusion disc. He doesn't like dish. He doesn't like olives either. And yes, I put that out. It had a purpose. It had a core reason for going out there. It wasn't random. It might seem random, but it wasn't. It hadn't got that. It was about creating engagement. It was about a poll, and it was about understanding a little bit more about my ideal clients. You might think, well, what is knowing whether olives should be eaten in a Chinese takeaway or not got to do with your ideal clients? It's opening a door to a conversation. So everything I do has a very clear purpose. It has a way of making sure it's doing something for my audience that needs the next step. And that's what we want to do. We want to create that consistent content plan that works for your business, not anyone else's, your business, because your business is unique and your ideal clients are as well. And what works for you might not work for someone else, and sticking to it, but being able to give yourself that space to use those creative posts within that plan is building in that element to it and creating the purpose for those posts that can really use that creativity in a way that you enjoy, because content creation should be fun. It's a creative, I call it a creative industry because it is, and it should be fun. But most people find it stressful. They find it causes panic because they haven't got this consistent plan to channel the ideas in the right way. And that's when you get really great results, is you use that creativity, you use those ideas, but put it into a plan that works. So that leads on to my fourth point, which is a place to put your ideas. Create a system. Now, I hate the word system. I go through phases, but if you have lots of ideas like Dumbledore and the Pensieve in Harry Potter, wherever you have a place, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You can, if you like Notion or Trello, if you like those kind of apps or GoodNotes or something like that, use that. I use my notes on my iPhone, on Apple. I'm an Apple lover. And I just write all my ideas and notes because it's the only way I will put them in quickly, because I know that if I put them there, I can then take them out my mind. It doesn't take up any more brain space, and I can come back to them later. And sometimes I do need to come back to them later. Otherwise, I would have about 25 different businesses on the go at any one time. So I need a ideas folder so I can park stuff to use at another time. So I can really focus on what's key rather than what I feel like I need to tell everybody right now, because most people won't see all of the information. Even if I did have one idea, it would turn into about 10 different bits of content probably, because that's how much we need to break down our content ideas sometimes to get it through, the message through to our ideal clients. Like the launch I've just done, I probably sent out, I can't remember how many emails. I probably sent out 15 in total from the start of the challenge right through to the end of the launch, because that's how much content needs to go out. I'm not saying lots of different things in every single email. I am saying the same thing pretty much over and over again, because I can see the open rates. I can see the click-throughs. I can understand that not everybody, I don't get 100% open rates on my emails. No one does. If you do, I want to know how you do it. I know that people aren't going to read everything I put out there. And actually, if I say it twice, they might actually hear it the second time rather than the first. So it's absolutely okay. So put your ideas somewhere that you can then come back to them later in an easy way. You can also, as I go back to my previous point, you could always categorize them. So if you think that's an educational bit, that's a storytelling bit, that's a vulnerability bit, that's going to be an inspirational piece. Put that somewhere that works for you. Your system, your rules. You make it work for you. I'm not going to tell you which system to use. You might love a spreadsheet. Go for it. If that's your happy place, do it. I love a spreadsheet, but not for my ideas. I need literally a blank note page so I can write them down. Sometimes even if I'm in the middle of like doing something and I haven't got my phone, I'll put it on a post-it note just to get it out my head so I don't forget it. But what I won't go and do is go and shove it out on social straight away or put it into an email, because that probably isn't going to get me the results on a great idea. I've seen this happen so many times with people and their content, where they've done it and thought that should be brilliant, and then it hasn't worked because it's not been planned out properly at the right timing. It doesn't mean you have to spend hours figuring out when it's going to be the right bit and perfecting the actual text and all of those kind of things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about thinking about what is going to work best for your audience rather than just putting stuff out there. If you do have that moment where you think, I need to share this with people, like I put out on Facebook about a month ago that the postman got knocked on my door. Bear in mind, I'm in a quite small village, and told me he had a bee down his shirt, so he took his top off on my doorstep, of which I then had to text my husband and say, because we've got cameras, we've got a Ring doorbell, we got cameras in the front drive and round our house. I was like, in case you check the cameras, yes, the postman did actually take his top off on my doorstep, but for reference, there was no bee. I did check, it was fine. It was also very uncomfortable and awkward. I was also holding Ruby at the time, who didn't want to be held. So all kinds of situations. Anyway, I had to text my husband and tell him that, and he just replied back with what was he delivering? So I said special package. I mean, that was an open goal, right? So I shared that because that was I felt like the need to share that. But that I shared on my stories, because on Instagram, because that is current news. It's a place where I can go and put it, that people can see. That's a little inkling into my world of something I thought was funny that other people might enjoy. And it did get quite a few comments. That's where you can use your stories. That's where you can use some of those informal bits in those kind of places where you can disrupt your normal content with the everyday stuff, because people see that. They want to see your everyday stuff as well. So sometimes we can just do a quick little story of, I've got this great idea, I'm thinking about it, what do you think on this? And it's not going to then disrupt all of your content plan, but it will get that idea out if you think it's worth sharing. And more likely to get noticed that way, because your stories in Instagram particularly, or even just like a little update somewhere, are what people see first. It keeps you front of mind. So sometimes that's a good way to do it. So the long and short of this podcast episode is that you can be creative and plan in equal measures. It's just being able to be a little bit constrained. Is that the word? I don't know. Let's go with it. But basically, it's being able to not control that creativity and basically squish it, but putting it somewhere that you can come back to it and build on it. That's the key thing here. I'd really love to hear some of your creative ideas for posts, and some of the things that you think you want to tell people, but don't know how to put it into a piece of content that will resonate. Often we have these great ideas, but then actually translating it into a piece of content can be tricky. I'd really love to hear what they are. Just drop me a message or a DM, email. I'm on the socials. I'm on the World Wide Web. You can come and find me. Details are in the show notes. And I hope that was useful for you today. If you have any suggestions, by the way, for content for these episodes, do let me know. If there's something you're stuck with that would be helpful, drop me a message. I'm always open to hearing what would help you with your content that converts. All right, wonderful people. I'll be back again next week with another episode of the Creative Content Club podcast. Thank you for listening to the Creative Content Club podcast with me, Naomi Rose. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this podcast a review. If this episode gave you clarity or sparked a new idea, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with someone else who would find it useful. If you haven't already, give me a follow on Instagram and come and connect with me on LinkedIn. And finally, don't forget to check out the show notes to take my quiz to find out exactly why your content isn't converting into clients. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back again next week with another episode.